Rachel sat stiffly in the chair, clutching her folder with trembling fingers while Ethan rested his head on her arm, his innocent eyes darting curiously around the large office. She had imagined this day so many times, the day she might finally get a break, finally prove she was worthy of a job that could lift her and her son out of survival mode. But she had never imagined sitting across from the CEO himself, especially after being told moments earlier that she was unprofessional for simply being a mother with no backup. Her stomach churned as she thought about the bills piling at home, the landlord's cold warning about rent being late again, the empty fridge that had forced her to skip breakfast so Ethan could eat. And yet, here she was, in a place she thought she had already lost. Alexander Donovan leaned back in his chair, studying her silently for a moment. His presence was commanding, but not in the intimidating way she expected. There was a certain calmness in his eyes, a patience she hadn't seen in anyone else in months. "Tell me about yourself, Ms. Carter," he said finally. His voice wasn't sharp like the manager's who had just dismissed her, it carried a tone of genuine curiosity, as if her words mattered. Rachel took a deep breath, forcing herself to steady her voice. She spoke of her degree in business administration, of the years she had spent working 2 jobs while raising Ethan, of her passion for organization and dedication to hard work. She admitted honestly that the past 2 years had been the hardest, losing her husband in a car accident, falling behind financially, and trying desperately to stay afloat while giving her son a childhood that still held moments of joy. Her words spilled out like a flood she had held back for too long. And as she spoke, Ethan chimed in softly, saying, "My mom works so hard. She even reads me stories at night even when she's tired." Rachel flushed with embarrassment, but Alexander smiled faintly, clearly moved. For a moment, the polished boardroom felt less like an interview and more like a conversation about survival, love, and the quiet strength of a mother who refused to quit. When Rachel finished, there was silence. The managers exchanged awkward glances, expecting the CEO to politely dismiss her the way they had already intended. But Alexander's gaze didn't waver. Instead, he said, "Do you know why I started this company, Ms. Carter?" She shook her head. He leaned forward. "Because my own mother raised me alone. She worked long hours as a secretary, and when childcare wasn't available, she brought me to interviews, to offices, to meetings. Some people judged her. Some doors closed in her face. But she never stopped fighting. I built this business to honor her sacrifice. And I will never punish someone for doing what they must for their child." Rachel's throat tightened, emotion overwhelming her. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. Alexander turned to the managers. "This company needs employees with resilience, dedication, compassion. I see that in Ms. Carter. I want her hired immediately." The managers stammered, caught off guard, but quickly nodded in agreement. Rachel pressed a hand to her chest, unable to hold back her tears. She whispered, "Thank you, sir. You have no idea how much this means." Alexander smiled. "Don't thank me yet. Show me what you can do. That's thanks enough." That was the day everything changed, but the journey was far from over. Rachel stepped into her new role with determination, arriving early every morning, balancing her work with motherhood. Yet challenges followed her at every corner. Some colleagues whispered behind her back, calling her the charity case or suggesting she had only been hired because the CEO pitied her. Some even tested her, assigning her more than her share of work to see if she would crack. And at home, things weren't easier. Ethan struggled to adjust to longer hours without his mom, sometimes crying when she returned late. Rachel battled guilt constantly, torn between wanting to excel at her job and wanting to be fully present for her son. But she refused to give up. She remembered Alexander's words, resilience, dedication, compassion. She poured herself into her work, staying up late to learn new skills, proving again and again that she was not a burden but an asset. When a critical project suddenly fell apart weeks later, it was Rachel who stayed calm, reorganized the plan, and saved the company thousands of dollars. Slowly, colleagues began to see her differently. Whispers turned to admiration, and the same managers who once doubted her began to rely on her ideas. Still, the greatest test came one winter evening when Ethan fell seriously ill. Rachel rushed him to the hospital, her heart breaking as she sat beside his bed. She feared missing work, feared letting everyone down, but this time Alexander himself visited her at the hospital. He placed a hand on her shoulder and said, "Your first job is here. Being a mother. Don't worry about the company, we'll manage." In that moment, Rachel realized she had not only earned respect in the office, but also found a leader who understood her struggles in ways she never expected. Months later, at the company's annual event, Alexander called her on stage unexpectedly. He told her story not to embarrass her, but to inspire others. He spoke of resilience, of a mother's sacrifice, of the strength it takes to show up every day even when the odds are stacked against you. "This company isn't built only on profit," he said. "It's built on people like Rachel, people who remind us that compassion and determination go hand in hand." The room erupted in applause, and Rachel stood there with tears in her eyes, Ethan proudly clapping in the front row. Just an employee. She became a symbol of perseverance, of the idea that no matter how many doors are closed in your face, sometimes one person can see your worth and change the course of your life. And she knew she had a responsibility, too, to use her voice, her position, and her story to remind others that kindness and understanding matter more than appearances. And so, dear listener, if this story touched your heart, I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Rachel's shoes? Do you believe companies should be more understanding of parents, especially single parents who are just trying to survive? Share your thoughts in the comments, I read every one of them. And if you believe in stories that inspire compassion, resilience, and hope, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Be kind always. Let's keep spreading kindness together, one story at a time.